So, this episode is a double feature for Scooby Doo. Now, a while back, I did try to do a review of these two fanfictions, but the thing is, the subject matter for both stories is very touchy, rather sensitive actually, and I made the mistake of reading both stories out loud because they were both short. I'm not going to do that this time around because there's really no need to. The stories aren't bad. I would say the second story is better than the first, but we'll get into that when we get into that. But, the reason why I decided to redo this bit was because, both stories involve death. The first story, it gives it away in the summary, that Scooby at least dies. And the second story is rather depressing. And, back in June, Meg and I, we had to put our cat down. And, when I tried to do this episode before, I got a tad emotional near the end. And I just ended up just deleting the footage altogether because it didn't work. So we're going to give it another go this time around. The creator says I do have to review these two stories. But she did say that I don't have to read them aloud again. So there's that. So the first story. The Way You Shake and Shiver. The author is Demarx. Here's a summary. Scooby Doo, where are you? After the death of Scooby Doo, the gang tries to move on, but they soon realize that the days of Mystery Inc. are over, and their lives begin to fall apart. So, it's rated T, it's in English, it's drama tragedy. It has over 1,100 words, 7 reviews, 18 faves, 5 follows, and it was published back on July 13th of 2013. So, the story starts off as, a normal cliched Scooby-Doo episode where, Scooby and Shaggy are running about, getting scared, running into each other's arms. Velma loses her glasses. Daphne gets captured. Freddy thinks up a plan to, go and unmask the crook and whatnot. And, Scooby messes up the trap, the normal cliches that go on in a Scooby-Doo episode. So, they end up, catching the bad guy. But something very tragic happens. And the tragic thing that happens is that Scooby gets caught in a rope net. This rope net was meant for the crook. And when he gets himself untangled and he goes to run towards Shaggy, Freddy accidentally hits Scooby with the mystery machine. And Scooby is instantaneously dead. So yes. Fast forwards to 2 weeks later and a bloody ad. What is with these bloody ads in the middle of the story? So, 2 weeks later, it's showing Shaggy, and he's in an apartment. He's gotten really, really bad about the drugs, and he starts to sing the Scooby Doo song. So then, 4 weeks pass, and it's now from Freddy's point of view. And Freddy's thinking about writing a book about his life. He's feeling bad about what happened with Scooby and about what happened with the others with Mystery Incorporated. He keeps getting sick whenever he thinks about everything that is going on. And, he knew that things were not going to last forever with the group, but the way it ended, with Scooby dying, it was very, very depressing for him. Then it's saying 6 weeks after that, and now we're going from Daphne's point of view. So, Daphne is apparently homeless. She's apparently homeless. And now she's living on the streets. Like, literally living on the streets. She dumped Freddy, and she's just been living on the streets. Like, I guess her family abandoned her or something. Little weird how that took the turn that it did. And then, 8 weeks later, I'm assuming when it says, like, the 2, 4, 6, 8... I think that's supposed to be, like, after, Scooby died and not, like, 8 weeks after this. It's a little confusing. But anyway, now it's Velma's point of view. And, she hasn't heard from the others, not recently anyway. I mean, the most recent thing she heard was from Shaggy, and she had spoken to him, like, about a week ago. But he didn't sound well. She had no luck contacting Freddy at all. She didn't really talk to Daphne when they were part of the gang, so I guess she didn't bother trying to contact Daphne. And she's not even sure if any of them are still alive. So it turns out that the police have found someone named Norville Rogers, and I'm assuming that's supposed to be Shaggy, like that's his real name. And they found his body, and it's a deal that he ended up dying of a drug overdose. And then it says 10 weeks after that, the van, the mystery machine van, it ended up getting sold. And then 12 weeks after that, it's back to Velma's point of view. And she's looking at a picture on the wall of like her and the others, and looking at, the picture of Scooby with Thumb. And, she's looking at multiple pictures of these same people. Like, it's saying, like, the people that she used to know, but it's obvious that's supposed to be the Scooby gang. And it's obvious that she's, reminiscing about the past and that she misses them. But it seems like Velma, at the very least, is, making a move on with her life. And then, 13 weeks after that, Velma decides to go and check up on Freddy. She goes to his house, knocks on the door, but there's no answer. She tries the handle and it's unlocked. And what happened is that she found Freddy dead. And it's implied that he committed suicide. And then the story kind of ends with her starting to sadly sing the Scooby Doo song. And then, it ends with like a crazy old man sitting in a jail cell. And this is supposed to be the crook that the kids caught, like the day that Scooby died. And the last line of the fanfic is, "And I would have gone away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids." So yes. So this story, it was a decent story. Depressing. I felt like maybe they should have spaced things out way more. Like, instead of having it be 13 weeks, it should have been like maybe a year's going by. My big problem with this story is not only the corniness with Velma sadly singing the Scooby Doo song and then having the guy saying, "Oh, I would have gone away with it too, blah, blah, blah." It was that the story read like a bloody summary. Like, it really read like a summary. Like, I felt like this could have been fleshed out way more than it was. But aside from that, not a bad story. So, the second story, A Scoob. The author of this one is Amy Nicole 94. Here's the summary. The mystery gang is gone now. Everything is gone. All that is left in the zombie apocalypse world is one man and his dog. So it's fiction T. It's in English. It's sci-fi. This characters are Shaggy and Scooby Doo. Has 877 words, 5 reviews, 10 faves, 3 follows. And it was published back in April 26th of 2014. So I'm going to be rather quick about summarizing this story. Pretty much, Shaggy and Scooby are the only survivors left of Mystery Incorporated. They're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. It's implied that the only reason why Shaggy could talk to Scooby before, when they were, part of Mystery Incorporated pre-apocalypse, was because he smoked weed. But because weed is smelly, he can't really smoke it anymore because of the zombies, because that attracts the zombies. So Scooby is just a regular dog in this story. So the story is pretty much like him and Scooby reminiscing about the past, and he's talking about, all the adventures that him and Scoob used to get in with the others. And, talking about how things were before the apocalypse and how different things are now. And, he ends up pulling, it's implied that, I don't know how many years it's supposed to be, but it's implied that Scooby is, very old for a dog. And it's obvious that Shaggy is no longer, a teenager. He's like a man grown. So he ends up pulling out a dilapidated Scooby snack. And he gives it to Scooby, and Scooby, is all excited that he's getting a Scooby snack. And then, here's the bit that that upset me a bit. Pretty much it has it be that Shaggy lifts up the gun that he was using, to fight off the zombies. He ends up shooting Scooby, and then pretty much without showing it, there's another gunshot, and it's implied that Shaggy ended up killing himself too. So pretty much the story ends with him killing Scooby and then committing suicide. So yes, both of these stories are very depressing. This one was written way better than the other one. Way better. And I kind of think the author should have had, this be a full-on story. Have it be pre-apocalyptic, and then maybe having it, gradually, maybe have it, show, time jump things, showing how things are turning out the way they are and whatnot. But, aside from that, when it comes to one-shots, this one was very well written. Didn't notice any typos in either stories, if I am to be frank. I would say this one was way better written than the other one. This one didn't feel like a summary. Both very depressing, though. I mean, some people, they see pets as like glorified accessories and whatnot, but a lot of people do love their pets like like they are their own children, and that's how Meg and I were with our cats, and we will someday get more cats. It's just right now, obviously, that we both live in the States, and yeah, money's a bit tight right now. Oil prices are going up, gas prices are going up, the economy's just gone to pot. So, when things get a little bit better, hopefully within the next year or so, we'll have, cats again, and that would be nice. But, when I tried to do this episode before, I got a bit emotional at the end, especially with this story, because I read it out loud, and that was like my first read through. Like, I didn't read it ahead of time to know what was going to happen. Both stories, the titles don't imply what's going to happen. The way you shake and shiver just sounds like, a spooky story. A Scoob could be anything, you know what I mean? So yes, between the two, I would definitely recommend the first story. I mean, if you want to read it in its entirety, it's not long, but, if you want to read it, like, in detail to see how it is, then I would recommend it. Both authors, let's see. So, Amy Nicole 94, this is the only story she's ever written. And as for the other fellow, DeMarx, he has written, if it'll work, only 2 stories. So, there's this one, and then he wrote a Jimmy Neutron story, which that one is rated M. So, yes. So, thank you all for watching today's episode. If you did like it, please be sure to leave a like and leave a comment. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next episode. Until then, cheerio.